So I was looking at this image and I was like, wow, that's a very cute picture of a baby panda holding a bamboo shoot. But then I realized something unsettling. Panda isn't holding anything. This is actually a photo of a CGI panda from a movie that I haven't seen, which brings up an interesting question. What do machines look at things? Do they see the same things we do? Let's find out. Welcome to my channel. How AI sees the world today. We're going to find out how AI sees the world. More specifically, we're going to find out if it can guess what you're holding. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe. For this experiment, we'll be using Google's Teachable Machine, which allows us to train models to recognize objects in real time. First, we'll need an object to test it with. I grabbed this banana from the fruit bowl to start. I found a good spot with decent lighting and placed it on the table. Then I went into Teachable Machine and hit New Project. There are three main types of models you can train on Teachable Machine. Image classifiers, which can tell if an image has an object in it or not. Object localizers, which will tell where in an image an object is located and how big it is. And finally, pose estimators, which can guess the orientation of an object. For this experiment, I want to use an image classifier, because I only care whether or not the model can identify the object, not its location or size. To start training the model, we first have to give it some examples. To do that, take a picture of the object and then click Add Labeled Data. Label 1 should be the name of the object. In this case, it's a banana. After you label it, click the checkbox and then repeat the process by taking another picture and clicking Add Labeled Data. Once you've added enough pictures, you should have something like this. Now click Train. Now that the model is trained, let's see if it can identify the banana. To do that, we have to export the model so we can run it locally. Click Export and save it to your computer. Once it's downloaded, go to the console and type nodeindex.js. Then open the link it provides in your browser. Once you do, you should see something like this. As you can see, it identified the banana with a whopping 93% certainty. That's pretty good, but it gets better. Let's try again with a different object. This time I grabbed this action figure from the shelf. I placed it down and repeated the process from earlier. After training and exporting the model, I opened it in the browser and it identified the figurine with 98% certainty. So far AI is crushing it, but let's try one more time just to make sure it's not a fluke. This time I grabbed this book from the shelf. I placed it on the table and repeated the process. After training and exporting the model, I opened it in the browser and it identified the book with 87% certainty. At this point, you might think that the AI is actually smarter than us humans, but that's not the case. As you'll see later, there are some objects it just can't understand. Overall, it's safe to say that AI can see certain objects in pictures pretty well, but what happens when it doesn't know what it's looking at? Let's find out. We'll start off easy with this fork and spoon. I placed them on the table and repeated the process from earlier. After training and exporting the model, I opened it in the browser, and as you can see, it has no idea what it's looking at. It guesses it could be a banana, but only with a 20% certainty. For everything else, it's pretty confident. Does that make sense? Because the images we used for training were all of individual objects. A single banana, a single action figure, and a single book. But this is a picture of two separate objects, so it makes sense why it's struggling. But what about this picture? If you look closely, you can see that it's a close-up of the hands with my fingers intertwined. Can the model identify either of the objects? Let's find out. I fed it pictures of both a fork and a banana, so it had something to compare to. Then I exported and ran the model. As you can see, it has no idea what it's looking at. It guesses that it could be a banana, but only with a 19% certainty. This tells me that the model probably works by comparing an image to a set of known images. If it finds a match, it returns the label of that image. So what does that mean for more complex objects? Let's find out. This is a picture of a screwdriver. It's definitely not a banana, so let's see if the model knows that. Fed it pictures of a screwdriver and a banana, so it had something to compare to. And I exported and ran the model, so you can see it has no idea what it's looking at. It guesses that it could be a banana, but only with a 20% certainty. So it seems like the model is more capable than we thought. It can identify simple objects that are well lit and isolated, but it starts to struggle with more complex objects. But what about this picture? It's a picture of someone holding a wrench. There's a lot going on here. There's a person, a wrench, and a toolbox. Will the model be able to identify the wrench? Let's find out. I fed it pictures of a wrench and a screwdriver, so it had something to compare to. Then I exported and ran the model. As you can see, it has no idea what it's looking at. It guesses that it could be a wrench with a 40% certainty. But it's also guessing that it could be a screwdriver with a 50% certainty. So it really does work by finding the most similar image to the one it is trying to identify. But that still raises some questions. Why did it have such a hard time identifying the fork and the wrench? Both of those objects were fairly easy to identify. They were well lit and pretty simple. The answer lies in the pictures I used to train the model. Take a closer look. Notice anything? Yeah, all of these objects are sitting on a white background. That's not a coincidence. When you're trying to teach a machine to recognize an object, it's best to teach it in a controlled environment first. That means making sure that the object is well lit and isolated. That way the model can focus on learning just that object without any distractions. So it's likely that the model just hasn't been trained to recognize objects in cluttered environments yet. So let's give it a hand. I took a bunch of pictures of a wrench in different environments, and then I added them to the training set. After retraining the model, I tested it again. This time it identified the wrench with an astounding 94% certainty. So it really does learn from experience. But there's still one more thing I want to try. This is a picture of my hand holding a Rubik's Cube. Can the AI identify the Rubik's Cube? What? Let's find out. I fed it pictures of a Rubik's Cube and a wrench, so it had something to compare to. Then I exported and ran the model. As you can see, it has no idea what it's looking at. It guesses that it could be a Rubik's Cube with only a 36% certainty. So it seems like there's still a long way to go. Maybe one day it will be able to identify objects as well as we can, but until then, we're safe. So now it's time for the reveal. You saw all the experiments, now it's my turn. What do you think I'm holding? Pause the video and comment your guess below. Alright, time for the answer. I was holding a Rubik's Cube. Did you get it right? If you did, congratulations, you win a prize. Comment down below so I can send you your prize. But now it's your turn. What do I think you're holding? Comment down below. It could be anything. Just make sure to include a picture so I can check. Again, don't forget to subscribe before AI identifies you. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.